Thank you, Ben. Ben Graves, our guitarist tonight. We'll hear a little bit more music from him in a bit, but I just wanted to say welcome to Oregon PSR's 40th anniversary celebration. I've made signs for all of us. Put on your party hats, get out your drinks, get ready for a fun night. My name is Mimi Bernal Graves. I'm our board treasurer for Oregon PSR, and my pronouns are she, her. And Candace, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mimi. Itukti wigwa kanawishan naika shawash kliu timix naika bashnam tichkliu Candice Jimenez. Good evening, everyone. My name is Candice Jimenez, and my Wasco name is Timix. My pronouns are she, her, hers. We just thank you all for joining us this evening, and we welcome you to share your name, your pronouns if you'd like, where you're from, how long you've been involved with Oregon PSR as a member or partner this evening.
I'm seeing a lot of people in our chat. So Susan and Pat and David. It's so nice to see everybody. Evelyn popped on here at the beginning. Thank you, Linda Marie, for your comment on the music. We appreciate that. Glad you guys are enjoying it. Feel free, again, to continue introducing yourselves and sharing your pronouns, where you're from, how you're connected to PSR.
And as we shared, we'll be using the chat box tonight to share some information with you all, including introducing ourselves, and also as a way to connect with one another. So be sure to click on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen to open the chat window and connect with all of us here this evening.
Absolutely. And I do want to say we will be using chat. But if you guys have questions or things that might be a little bit longer than a chat answer tonight throughout our celebration, we will follow up with you after the event to make sure we stay on time tonight. So I just want to share with you guys my excitement to be here as we honor the rich history of Oregon PSR and celebrate our unique organization. We are hoping to raise funds tonight to keep us going for the next 40 years, 400 years, 4,000 years. Keep the zeros going. This is a fundraiser, but it's also a party. So let's start with some live music. Grab yourself a tasty beverage of choice, and just relax for a moment as we listen to Ben and let people join our session. Thank you, Ben. Was that Memphis?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Ben, and pardon me while I scooch back up to the computer here. Ben is my husband, and I'm blessed to be with a musician and get to hear this wonderful music all the time. So it's always a pleasure when I get to share this experience with others. He is got a you donated to the silent auction, so there's an opportunity to bid on lessons with him. He's also a composer and he plays around the area, and that was an original song called Memphis, inspired by where he grew up in Tennessee. So thank you for playing. We'll hear a little bit more from Ben as we close out this evening. And yeah, let's see here. What do we got? I wanted to also tell you guys I made this fabulous little sign earlier. Hopefully, maybe I should have done it in mirror format. I don't know if it's coming through the right way. But in the chat, you're going to start seeing some information for how you can donate tonight, texting Oregon PSR to Oregon PSR to 44321, or on our website at oregonpsr.org/donate. And Candace, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mimi. And thank you, Ben. Beautiful music and a beautiful way to share this evening together. So before we move further into our program together tonight, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the place that we're on, that we are on stolen land. As an organization of health professionals and public health advocates, we have an ethical commitment to do no harm, nor further any harm that has been done. From that lens, as a tribal citizen of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and as guests living on these lands and waters, Oregon PSR acknowledges the original and continuing stewards and protectors of what we now refer to as the Pacific Northwest. For thousands of years, the indigenous people of this area, including but not limited to the Multnomah, the Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of the Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, and Molalla, live and continue to live in right relationship with the land, the air, the water, and other living and non-living beings. Since time immemorial, tribal nations have gathered and accumulated knowledge. They've established lifeways to sustain their people, their plants, animals, and didn't contribute to the current environmental crises that we now face. Today, Oregon is home to 9 federally recognized tribes. These include the Burns Paiute tribe, the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Sayusla, the Coquille Indian tribe, the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua Tribe of Indians, Confederated Tribes of the Grand Round, Klamath Tribes, Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, and the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. This includes other Indigenous nations and communities as well, and tribes who are not federally recognized today. All of these communities continue to be caretakers of unceded lands and traditional village sites, and Portland itself is home to a vibrant urban Indigenous community representing over 400 tribal nations. So we want to recognize and respect these Indigenous communities, to honor and acknowledge their resilience of this land and of the people and cultures whose stewardship predates colonization. So as an organization and as individuals here this evening, we strive to learn from and support tribal communities in their efforts to protect the health of our planet through action. And we recognize the collective impacts of colonization that have been harmful to Indigenous peoples and to the land. And so tonight and every day, we honor the need for healing and action alongside our tribal communities. So thank you so much for sharing in that with us. So tonight, as you know, we're here to celebrate 4 decades of work for peace, health, and justice by Oregon PSR, and to raise funds to ensure that the organization can continue for at least another 40 years. Over the past year, staff and board members have been reaching out to some of the people that created this organization and kept it growing strong over the past 4 decades to share some of their stories, their memories, and hopes for the future. We compiled these interviews into a 40th anniversary video that you're about to see here tonight as we premiere it for the first time. I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to Katie Morrow, former Oregon PSR program assistant, who brought her stellar video direction and editing skills to help us create this project in-house. So whether you've been around Oregon PSR for 40 years or you are brand new to the group, I know that you'll enjoy this video and learn something new. I know that I did. So without further ado, we present the Oregon PSR 40th anniversary video. Grab your popcorn. Thank you.
Guided by the values and expertise of healthcare and public health, Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility works to protect human life from the gravest threats to health and survival by striving to protect our climate, end the nuclear threat, promote peace, and advance justice. To celebrate Oregon PSR's 40th anniversary, we're taking a look back at some of the people and the efforts that have made Oregon PSR the organization it is today. Dr. Karen Steingart of Portland attends a symposium at Harvard on the health consequences of nuclear weapons and nuclear war, and is invited to a gathering at the home of Dr. Helen Caldicott by a friend who insisted it would be the most important meeting you will ever attend. Her friend was right.
I had met a friend from Columbia College in New York, and he had already connected with the leadership of PSR. Peter invited me to come along. And so after the symposium, I found myself in the beautiful wood-paneled library in the home of Dr. Helen Caldicott. There I listened to the people who were revitalizing PSR. This is how I met Drs. Helen Caldicott, Victor Seidel, Jack Geiger, and others who were leading the efforts in PSR.
Karen is galvanized into action and returns to Portland, where she gathers other health professionals and interested community members who meet in her living room to start the Portland PSR chapter.
And initially, people did not get it. That was my sense at the time. The conversation kept returning to nuclear power and Trojan, Oregon's only nuclear power plant. It was a process of understanding and taking in the nuclear weapons and war piece, because what I was describing was unthinkable. And at some point, Dr. Caldicott suggested that she come to Portland to help us incorporate, and I think that really cinched it. Her presence was really, really important. We felt like we were doing something critically important for our patients, our families, for the world. It felt way bigger than ourselves.
At 67 years old, Dell Greenfield begins her legendary tenure of 16 years as executive director of Portland PSR. According to former board treasurer Richard Belsey, Dell was the heart and most of the hands of the organization. She takes care of people and she keeps people on track.
She was a real spark plug and was beloved not only by PSR folks, but by just a spectrum of people all over the map in the Portland area. One of the things that I loved about Dell and her husband Lou was that they would set up a booth anytime PSR had a conference or a convention, whether it was national or whether it was in the Northwest. And she would sell things like aprons and grocery bags and T-shirts, anything that had to do with PSR and would have the logo on it. It always had a white dove too. She also sold bumper stickers, peace buttons, and she was just a great resource and very enthusiastic. Anytime I got to a conference, Dell had already been there for a day and had carted in unbelievable cartons of good things, and everything she sold, all the profits went back to the chapter. And it was fun, and she was a delight.
In those early years, and back then that was the Dell Greenfield era, she was such an inspiring and incredible person and a fabulous organizer. And her husband, Lou, was kind of her sidekick, always there, very quiet and caring man, but Dell was the dynamic driver of a lot of the things we did.
She had incredible creativity, and she had an incredible sense of service. Many, many, many friends, and I'm just lucky and honored to be her daughter.
The group organized a day-long symposium on the medical consequences of nuclear weapons and nuclear war on April 17, 1982, at Lewis and Clark College in Portland. In addition to conferences, PSR members presented the Bombing Run slideshow to demonstrate the horrific health impacts of the use of nuclear weapons to dozens, if not hundreds, of groups in the area over the first few years. In 1985, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for spreading authoritative information and by creating awareness of the catastrophic consequences of nuclear war. As the local affiliate of the group, Physicians for Social Responsibility shared in the honor of being a Nobel Peace Prize recipient, and the city of Portland issued a proclamation declaring December 10th Portland PSR Day to mark the occasion.
We had a group of Soviet physicians who were touring the U.S., and I organized their various media visits, which is an amazing thing. And the culminating event was a big presentation they did. They gave really interesting presentations. One really memorable thing was taking them to Powell's bookstore. An amazing, some people think it's the best bookstore in the country. And they were able to find lots of books in Russian that they had no way of getting. And they were so enthralled. And they bought a whole bunch of books and were just enthused about what they saw in this bookstore.
5 physicians from the Soviet Union visited Portland during a nationwide tour sponsored by PSR. The goal of the campaign was to promote dialogue and cooperation between Soviet and American physicians on one of the most pressing international public health questions of the time, the threat of nuclear annihilation. These physicians, members of the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, presented about global health lessons of Chernobyl and more generally their role as citizen diplomats in the nuclear age. During their visit, they lectured at hospitals and universities, met with local elected leaders, and engaged in formal and informal exchanges with the public. Locally and nationally, PSR expanded its mission to apply its medical expertise to environmental health issues in recognition of the grave risks to human health posed by global climate change and toxic pollution.
The toxics issue was real important to me. So we did a lot with working on, there was a lead screening clinic that was being done through Oregon PSR when I first came, but really trying to educate health professionals about toxins. We held several training sessions and had a program that actually was built out of the Greater Boston PSR chapter at the time, and did a lot of lobbying for trying to get flame retardants banned through the legislature and a variety of issues like that.
I was the environmental health program director. And when I came in, we were just finishing up the pediatric environmental health toolkit, which was lead, mercury, pesticides. And there was a bunch of work going on both in Oregon and nationally around endocrine disruptors. Bisphenol A was the one we were sort of concentrating on. That climate change was really coming to the fore. And of course, at that point, because of our work with mercury and the Boardman plant, we were working pretty closely with Greenpeace and also OEC. Yeah. And so the kind of refocusing of the effort onto climate change, I think, has been a natural thing and also a really valuable thing. And I'm really glad to see there's been some great work done. You know, everybody who's working on that issue, I think they're just doing a great job.
As Oregon PSR expanded its mission, the organization took on a variety of campaigns focusing on various environmental issues from a health perspective. Some of this work included the Campaign for Safe Foods to remove RBGH from dairy products, the campaign to create a nuclear power-free Northwest, the Healthy Food and Healthcare campaign, the passage of the Toxic-Free Kids Act in Oregon after many years of work, and the campaign for a just transition away from the Covanta incinerator, to name a few. Some of these campaigns are still going on today. Oregon PSR assumed the coordination role for the annual commemoration of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which brings out hundreds to the Japanese American Historical Plaza in Portland's Waterfront Park annually. Throughout the years, the events featured speakers and performers such as Japanese hibakusha, or A-bomb survivors, Hanford downwinders, drumming by Native American and taiko groups, multiple performances and art pieces by advisory board members Chizao Hata and Yukio Kawano, and Multnomah County's Thousand Cranes Awards to young people. PSR worked closely with partner organizations such as the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, the Oregon Nikkei Endowment, now the Japanese American Museum of Oregon, and JACL, the Japanese American Citizens League, as well as the American Friends Service Committee and many others to organize these collaborative commemorations.
And then the thing I got really involved with was I helped with the conference on the developing child in a violent society.
Led by co-chairs and Oregon PSR board members Bonnie Reagan and Josiah Hill, PSR organized a conference of nearly 1,000 participants on the developing child in a violent society, which was held at what was then called Madison High School, now McDaniel High School, in Portland. A similar conference was also organized by the Salem chapter of PSR. Oregon PSR board members Josiah Hill and Richard Baer began a mobile lead testing initiative primarily serving the Black community in North and Northeast Portland. Through this work, Hill created an alliance between Oregon PSR and the Coalition of Black Men. When Hill died in 2000, the Josiah Hill III Clinic was established to continue his legacy of service.
When I discovered, quite by accident, that I was a Hanford downwinder, that I had been exposed to the toxic emissions from the Hanford plutonium facility, that was in 1990, the summer of 1990. Well, I became so curious about radiation and human health. So I started a quest to get as much information as I could, go strictly by my research to satisfy my own interest in radiation health issues. I found out about Physicians for Social Responsibility. I drove up to Portland, went in their office, and their executive director was a wonderful woman named Dell Greenfield. And she greeted me and was very friendly. And I said, I've just discovered I'm a Hanford downwinder and I am trying to get information. And she said, oh, you need to talk to Rudy Nussbaum. And she just dialed the phone and handed it to me. And Rudy was on the other end of the line. I'd never met him, never heard of him. And I found out he was a retired physics and environmental science professor from Portland State. And so that's how that connection was made.
Doctors Charlie Grossman, Rudy Nussbaum, Lorene Nussbaum, and other Oregon PSR members collaborate with Hanford downwinders, including Pat Hoover, to form the Northwest Radiation Health Alliance. Together, they develop a groundbreaking community participatory study of the health impacts of radiation from Hanford and publish 7 papers in peer-reviewed journals on their findings. The collaboration bridged the gap between scientific and lay approaches.
the biggest point was that the downwinders who contacted PSR originally were given credibility. We were validated as downwinders. And that, I mean, there was never a question of, should we do this? Should we continue? Should PSR be involved in this? I mean, there was never a question about that. And then we were treated as equals with the professionals in PSR that were helping us. And that was an incredible working relationship.
In the wake of the terrorist attack of September 11, 2001, Oregon PSR mobilized with other community organizations to promote a peaceful response, organizing a memorial for all victims of violence and a call for peace. Oregon PSR was an anchoring organization for major anti-Iraq war mobilizations in Portland, helped to form the PDX Peace Coalition to broaden and diversify the peace movement, coordinated a campaign to send thousands of postcards to Congress to end the war, presented to dozens of organizations on the health effects of war, and supported a Portland City Council resolution to end the war.
With Catherine Thomason, who was the board director, we got really focused on opposing the war on terrorism. And I think that ended up being a really galvanizing issue for the chapter.
In 2015, under the leadership of new board president Dr. Pat O'Haron, the organization began its journey to infuse the values of justice and equity into all aspects of our work. This explicit commitment is being brought to life through regular discussions about justice and equity at all our staff and board meetings, periodic trainings, meetings of our anti-racist book club, and more. Our programmatic work, our partnerships, and our staff and board demographics have begun to shift over time to increasingly reflect our commitment to taking leadership from the communities most impacted by injustice as we continue along our collective journey towards justice and equity. Named in honor of legendary former executive director Del Greenfield, the Greenfield Peace Scholarship provides annual awards to Oregon high school juniors and seniors for their response to prompts concerning peace and justice issues, including nuclear disarmament, racism, immigrant justice, gun violence, and climate disruption. From 2009 to 2020, the contest was based on writing, and in 2021, it focused on visual art. To date, 40 high schoolers have been awarded cash scholarships and recognized for their vision. Oregon PSR helps build the Pacific Northwest thin green line between fossil fuel extraction and export by bringing the health voice to the leadership of regional coalitions to prevent coal, oil, and gas pipelines, rail cars, and export facilities.
It was a thrill to work in these campaigns to kind of build the thin green line. When I started, there were 6 proposals for coal export facilities in the Pacific Northwest, and together with this amazing coalition, we staved off every one of them.
I think what PSR has been doing the last several years with stopping the coal terminals and the oil terminals and the transport of coal through the gorge, I mean, their success with that has been astounding.
Our efforts to stop coal exports is what launched Oregon PSR's Healthy Climate Program in 2012, and the victories against coal, oil, and fracked gas have stacked high ever since. In 2012, there were 6 coal export terminals proposed, 3 in Oregon and 3 in Washington. And after tireless documentation and testimony about the health impacts of fossil fuel transport, our efforts in the Power Past Coal Coalition helped secure denials of essential permits for all of them. In 2018, the lease was canceled for the nation's largest oil-by-rail terminal in Vancouver, Washington, after years of hard work with our partners in the Stand Up to Oil Coalition. That same year, Oregon PSR joined the Power Past Fracked Gas Coalition, which has secured major permit denials to stop the Jordan Cove LNG export terminal and Pacific Connector pipeline in southern Oregon, as well as the proposed Kalama fracked gas to methanol refinery in southwest Washington. And most recently, we celebrated with our partners when the city of Portland denied a key permit to the Zenith crude oil facility.
We just had a wonderful victory. The Northwest Innovation Works pulled out of the Kalama, canceled their lease with the Port of Kalama, Washington, which this fight's been going on for several years. A lot of people worked very hard, and it's just
good. Congratulations.
Really nice, yeah.
Oregon PSR was part of the steering committee for the nation's first ever Climate Justice Fund and Oregon's first environmental initiative created and led by communities of color, the Portland Clean Energy Fund. We presented a report by member Patricia Kohlberg on racial and economic health disparities in Portland and how the Portland Clean Energy Fund would benefit the health of Portland's low-income residents and people of color. Many PSR members collected signatures, phone banked, and canvassed for the initiative, and our staff supported communications and field organizing to get out the vote. The measure passed by a whopping 65% of voters, and Oregon PSR continued working with the coalition to implement the ballot measure and support the staff and grant committee in setting up this groundbreaking municipal grant fund of $44 to $61 million in annual support for rooftop solar projects, energy efficiency home upgrades, clean energy job training programs in regenerative agriculture, and tree canopy projects with priority given to low-income Portlanders and communities of color. Oregon's legislature voted to approve Senate Joint Memorial 5, which supports the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons and urges Congress to lead a global effort to reduce the threat of nuclear war, making it the second state in the nation to pass such legislation in both chambers. The bill was introduced at the request of Oregon PSR with the support of 31 organizations around the state and garnered moving testimony from a Japanese hibakusha or A-bomb survivor, a Hanford downwinder, an atomic veteran, the Oregon Marshallese community, a Corvallis city councilor, and others. Portland City Council passed a similar resolution later that year, with Commissioner Chloe Udaly remarking, "The testimony I have heard here today will echo in my mind forever." Oregon PSR organized a lively online celebration to mark the entry into force of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. The event featured a hibakusha or A-bomb survivor, Hideko Tamura, Marshallese activist Kiana Judah Angelo, author of African Americans Against the Bomb, Vincent Intondi, and elected officials, including Congressman Earl Blumenauer.
Beatrice Finn, Executive Director of the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, also known as ICAN, says, "This is a new chapter for nuclear disarmament. Decades of activism have achieved what many said was impossible. Nuclear weapons are banned. There will only be one treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons ever, and it will only enter into force once, January 22nd, 2021.
I never thought that I would live to the day when enough country will sign on so that the ban treaty will be into force.
Oregon PSR joined the executive committee of a statewide campaign for environmental justice legislation that yielded a clean sweep of 3 new groundbreaking climate and energy justice bills signed into law. the Oregon Energy Affordability Act, Healthy Homes, and 100% Clean Energy for All. All three bills were made possible by rural and Black, Indigenous, and people of color-led environmental justice organizations, leading stakeholder conversations to reach consensus and deeply ground each bill in the values and principles of environmental justice. Together, these bills will limit utility bills and invest in home repairs and community-based renewable energy projects for low-income Oregonians while transitioning the state's electricity grid to 100% emissions-free electricity by 2040 and explicitly banning new or expanded fossil fuel power plants. Our health-based testimony in support of each bill and communications and lobbying support helped to secure these major milestones for climate justice and a Green New Deal for Oregon amid Oregon's first ever full legislative session held remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you to all of Oregon PSR's members, volunteers, donors, and leaders who've made 40 years of pursuing a more healthy, peaceful, and just world possible.
And I love working with Oregon PSR because it allows me to be effective with limited time, working on issues like fighting climate change and preventing nuclear war. I'm very busy in my job as a general surgeon and with my family and life, and so it's certainly not something I could do on my own, and instead I get to work with a lot of really great people who I enjoy working with and care deeply about.
What I value most about Oregon PSR is our understanding of the interconnected nature of the work that we do, from working for a healthier climate to working to end nuclear weapons, from working against gun violence and racial injustice. We understand that everything we do is intimately interconnected.
I value that it gives health professionals a chance to have a voice beyond just the role that they play in the office.
The information that you get from PSR is quite reliable. It's based in science. It certainly has an advocacy spin. There's no doubt we're advocating for something, but you know that the science is sound.
Oregon PSR can continue to play a big role, especially in climate change, and making sure that in these conversations, no matter how partisan they can get, we're always coming back to the science, and making sure that we're talking about the science and its impact on people, all people, no matter what your party is or your political persuasion. Health impacts impact everybody, and I think Oregon PSR will continue to play a really important role in educating folks and focusing folks on health and the importance of listening to the science when it comes to these topics.
I think what I value the most about Oregon PSR is the fact that we are both visionary and strategic. So we know that we are a part of a broader movement of people who are working together, and that sometimes we step forward, sometimes we step back to get a lot of good done for climate justice and public health.
There's very smart, very talented people involved. Number one. Number two, it's not just physicians. It's open to the general public and even beyond healthcare providers. So physicians, nurses, social workers, plus anybody can join, which I like. And that allows you to get different perspectives too. They are very well connected and know how to lobby and how to present their case before the state legislature, before city committees.
I think the other adage that has kept me connected with PSR over these many years is that we speak truth to power. So what a group. What a group. just a joy to work with.
PSR is so attuned to the needs of their community, whether it's the state or the Northwest or the city of Portland. Mm-hmm. And they are non-discriminating. I mean, anybody from any walk of life can come to them with a question or a need or something that PSR could help them with, and they get listened to and they get heard. They're very good about their outreach and who they're working with. And it's a wonderful organization in that way.
As much as anything, it's just gratitude
for a wonderful 7 years plus, and I really just appreciate what everybody did for me.
Just that they were really great years, and it was wonderful working with you and the other fabulous people like Rudy and Andy and on the board, and particularly Catherine Thomason. Yeah. And I think we all made a really good team.
It's been my great pleasure to work with these very bright and dedicated people at PSR for the last 20 years. I've served on the board and done stints as president, and I look forward to continuing that work with these wonderful people.
Oregon PSR is a really impressive, well-run chapter. It's that role of authority in the health field and using that for the betterment of society, public health.
And I just can't emphasize enough the really important thing to me about PSR are the amazing people, the energetic people who grabbed onto these issues and have made a big difference. And I just feel so proud to be a member.
I'm so grateful to every board member, staff member, and volunteer at Oregon PSR who over the past several decades have done such invaluable work in bridging the gap between justice and science. Thank you so much to each and every single one of you.
Well, I think the other thing that that the group, the board, and with Kelly's leadership, that has really embraced, and that is helping reach across organizations in embracing justice issues. That we have to work with and promote leadership of people who are most impacted.
The work that they do is extremely important. And I think that the coalition building that they've been doing the last, I don't know how many years, is extremely important.
What I value most about OPSR is our commitment to supporting and being an ally to climate justice initiatives that are led by frontline and historically excluded communities.
My hope for the future of Oregon PSR is that we are working together collaboratively and collectively for health equity and wellness for all. That we work across land, language, culture, access, and ability. That we're constantly moving from acknowledgement into action for the communities that we serve and the communities that we represent. Thank you.
What I value most about Oregon PSR is the incredible people who bring their passion and their dedication to this organization and have made us such an effective force for health, for peace, and for justice for the past 40 years. Thank you.
That video always gives me goosebumps, and I tear up a little bit every time I see it. It's just unbelievable seeing the highlights. I mean, that's our highlight reel. We do so much. We've done so much in partnership with healthcare professionals, community members, staff and board members, and partner organizations. There's no way that we can do this work alone. And for all of you that have donated your volunteer hours, contributed funds for this work, we thank you so much for everything that you've contributed. We are looking forward to serving our communities global and local for the next 40 years and 400 years and 4,000 years, as I said previously. We appreciate you and your contributions, whether financial participation in our events and volunteering. And here to tell us a little bit more about how you can support Oregon PSR is our board president, Dr. Patrick O'Haron.
Thanks, Mimi. I just thought I would tell you why I support Oregon PSR. My name is Patrick O'Haron. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the board president of Oregon PSR. I think for so many of us, it's been a really hard year in so many ways. And I have to admit that I was not feeling great about the state of the world and my place in it when I pre-screened the video you just watched about a month ago. And seeing the good work that OPSR has done and knowing that I was involved in some of it really helped me to start feeling better. Personally, I deeply value the work of Oregon PSR. And a few years ago, I decided to substantially increase my yearly donation to PSR. And I want to tell you why and like how I came to that decision. As a surgeon in my day job, I'm fortunate enough to make enough money to think about how to invest for the future. And so a few years ago, I took some time and thought about what my financial goals were. And what I came up with was what I want most is that for my family to be happy and healthy and secure. And so the conventional wisdom you get from like a financial planner is to save for retirement, set up college savings for your kids, make a will, kind of et cetera, et cetera. However, knowing what we know about the kinds of struggles that Oregon PSR is engaged in, things like climate change, nuclear proliferation, militarism, inequality, racism, sexism, toxins in the environment, the concentration of wealth and power for a very few, which is coupled with the increase in poverty and despair for so many. Knowing those things, I realized that what I want most, the happiness, security, equality, opportunity for my family, not just my close family, but really for the larger family of humanity, like those things I can't buy. I can't put money in a 401k or an IRA and then expect that action is going to shelter the people I love sometime in the future from climate chaos or war or political turmoil. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do match my 401k as much as my work will every year, but I don't think of saving for retirement as a true investment in the kind of world that I envision for my kids and grandkids. I do think of my donations to Oregon PSR as an investment in a healthier, more just and happier world. And supporting Oregon PSR really makes me feel better that we're acting to meet these challenges. I suspect that like many of you, especially those of us who are healthcare workers, but really all of us, I'm feeling pretty burned out by the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's made it hard at times to find the energy to show up personally in the way that I want to for some of these struggles. However, even when I'm dragging, I know two things. One, that showing up to fight the good fight, which is what PSR is doing every day, is a great antidote for burnout. I also know that even when I can't show up, the work continues because we have at Oregon PSR staff and volunteers. And together with our collective time, energy, and resources, we step up when we can and we step back when we have to. So it feels really good to me to donate to Oregon PSR and do my part to help keep that work going forward. And so a few years ago, I actually, after hearing about asking people for money as a board member, the person giving the training suggested that just about anyone who's writing a check can add a zero to the end of the check. And so that's what I did. So I went from donating $1,000 a year to donating $10,000 a year. And I try to personally show up when I can and support the work financially for the times when I can't. So I urge all of you to support the work of Oregon PSR in any way that you can. Your time and volunteer efforts are extremely valuable, and so are your donations. Our goal for our 40th anniversary is to raise $40,000. We already have raised $34,000. we would love to reach the goal of $40,000 tonight. So for an additional incentive, I'm challenging everyone on this Zoom meeting to make that goal. And if we do, I will donate another $5,000 in honor of 40 years of great work by Oregon PSR, and looking forward to another 40 years, or hopefully more. Hopefully in 40 years, Oregon PSR won't be necessary, but I'm not quite so optimistic to believe that to be true. Thank you all for your generosity and support. This is a difficult time, to be sure, but I can't think of a better group of people to be arm in arm with as we continue in the struggle to end the greatest threats to human health and well-being. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pat, for sharing that heartfelt story about your contributions to the future and making those contributions through Oregon PSR. Inspired me to tell a personal story about myself for just a second. When I joined PSR, I was in college working multiple jobs, and donating financially wasn't an option. And as we saw repeated time and again in the video, I was embraced with open arms and given opportunities to share my time and to give back through events and volunteering. I was never felt less than because I wasn't able to step up and support. I've been with PSR for over 10 years now, which is it's amazing how time flies, and I am able to do more financially and contribute. So I do want to say, for those of you who are here tonight who volunteer with us, our community partners who are out there, who knock on doors, who make calls, who come to our events, we need you. You're important, and continue doing that work. And if there are others who aren't able to contribute financially, please invite them to events and share this video, share our message, and get people involved in what we do. This is a friendly reminder. I am one of those people who needs to hear things more than once. And as our board treasurer, I'm here to remind you that you can donate by texting Oregon PSR to 44321. That is in the chat. The information to send checks is in the chat. There's also a donation site at oregonpsr.org/donate. And I, in my role as treasurer, want to tell you that every monetary contribution and all donated volunteer time helps us to do this incredible work to create a more just and peaceful world. Thank you for checking in on the chat for ways to donate. And we, as you saw in the video as well, there's no way that we could do what we do without the community partners and coalitions that we are part of. We want to take a moment to thank our event sponsors for tonight. We have been blown away by the generosity of our donors, and so many of our partner organizations that have stepped up to show their support for Oregon PSR by sponsoring this event. You can see some of them on the slides. Wonderful people and organizations and investing in the future of Oregon PSR, the power of bringing a health and justice lens to movement building, and the collaborations that make such a difference. If you've already given this year, please consider an additional gift in honor of this momentous occasion of 40 years of work. I too, Dr. Patrick, I hope we are not needed in 40 years, but I know if we are, we will be here thanks to those of you we work with, partner with, and those of you who give to our organization. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mimi, and Pat, for sharing your personal story and the connection to what PSR means to you. We have a couple of special messages from two of our favorite elected officials who are helping us celebrate tonight. First, we'll hear from Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley, and then from Oregon House District 46 Representative Con Pham.
Greetings to all the members, doctors and nurses, board members, partners and friends gathered together tonight to celebrate 40 years of incredible work and leadership for the Oregon Physicians of Social Responsibility. Senator Jeff Merkley here, and I'm thrilled to be part of the celebration. Thank you to your Executive Director, Kelly Campbell, and Board President, Dr. Patrick O'Haron, and all the members of the Board of Directors and Advisory Board for including me in tonight's event. Sir William Osler, one of the founding professors of Johns Hopkins Hospital and a father of modern medical training, said, "The good physician treats the disease. The great physician treats the patient who has the disease." For 4 decades now, all of you at Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility have not only sought to treat the diseases your patients have, but to treat the patients who have the disease. That makes you not just a good force, it makes you a great force. Your efforts have included addressing the issues and challenges that threaten our health and well-being as individuals, as a community, and as a nation. The day that Dr. Karen Steingart came back from that Harvard symposium on the health consequences of nuclear weapons and nuclear war and began organizing, right up to today, the day's focus on the critical issues of our time, with climate chaos at the top of the list, Oregon PSR has led the charge in the fight for peace, health, and justice. Because of you, voters in Portland passed the Portland Clean Energy Fund, and the Oregon legislature passed the strongest 100% clean energy electricity legislation around. If we want to save the planet, it boils down to this mission: electrify everything with renewable energy. And 100% clean electricity legislation is an essential step in that work. Because of you, Oregon and Portland passed resolutions supporting the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And because of your efforts, Oregon effectively blocked the future export of coal, tirelessly documenting and testifying to the health impacts of transportation fossil fuels like coal, and helped deny essential permits for 6 coal export terminal proposals in our region. And all 6 of those proposals are now dead. We must not continue to strive to enhance the export of fossil fuels. And in fact, we need to leave fossil fuels in the ground and stop greenlighting new fossil fuel extraction projects. I have expressed my concern to the Biden administration that they facilitated the completion of Line 3, which doubles the transportation of tar sand oil, the dirtiest oil on the planet. And they supported a new oil pipeline and a new natural gas pipeline in Alaska. And I'm concerned that legislation now under consideration promotes something euphemistically referred to as blue hydrogen, which is essentially chemical hydrogen made from natural gas with modest carbon capture requirements. In this case, it's not blue at all, and subsidizing it is subsidizing a fossil fuel stream 10 years into the future. That's not okay, and I'm fighting that. Thank you for your tireless efforts and for all that you continue to do for our state and for Oregonians. Congratulations on 40 incredible years, and here's to another great 40 to come.
Hello, friends at Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility. I just want to say congratulations on 40 years of working at the intersections of public health and social and economic justice. As a community organizer, I just have so appreciated working with PSR Oregon and the thoughtfulness and the people power that you bring. And now as a legislator, I continue to be impressed by just the steady dedication that PSR brings and the way you thoughtfully engage physicians and other health professionals in allyship with frontline communities who are being hit hardest from all of these issues, whether it's nuclear weapons or gun violence or climate justice. And now as a legislator trying to advance the boldest climate justice agenda possible, I really appreciate having doctors and health professionals and all the members of PSR really speaking up to talk about the health impacts of air pollution, of housing inequality, and instability, of air quality and smoke events, and climate disasters like the extreme heat that we faced this summer. So I just want to say thank you so much, Oregon PSR, for 40 years of your dedicated hard work, and I look forward to 40 more years and many more working alongside you in this movement to build grassroots power so that we can truly build the just transition that our communities desperately need. Cheers.
That was great, and we're very honored to work with such incredible elected officials that are truly amazing partners in our work for a healthy, just, and peaceful world. Now, let's hear a bit more about those silent auction items from Oregon PSR's Executive Director, Kelly Campbell. Kelly?
Great, thanks so much, Candace. So we have some really incredible auction items available tonight, thanks to our generous donors, with all the proceeds from these going to support the work of Oregon PSR. We are going to keep the bidding on these items open until noon on Monday, so you still have time to put in your bid after the celebration tonight. I don't have to tell you, it's been a tough year and a half, so this is actually a great opportunity to reward yourself or someone you love with one of our great auction items, such as a vacation stay, learning a new skill, delicious food, wine, artwork, and more. The auction items here would make really great holiday gifts and support Oregon PSR, so it's a win-win situation for you. You can get your holiday shopping taken care of and feel good about using your money to support your values. So I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the items we have up for bid right now. First, we have 4 really amazing vacation homes for you to stay in. And I can tell you they're amazing because I've stayed in almost all of them myself. You can stay on either side of the gorge. We have a 4-night stay at a dream home in Mosier, Oregon, with a hot tub and fantastic views of Mount Adams and incredible stargazing. And the owner has graciously allowed us to offer this to 2 different parties. So you don't even have to feel bad about outbidding someone because the top 2 bidders both win a separate stay at this vacation home. Or you can relax with friends and family on the Washington side of the gorge for a 3-night stay at a really gorgeous vacation house near White Salmon on 80 acres. It's got this like Finnish soapstone fireplace and pizza oven in it and a sweet little pond. It's really great in any season. We also have a 2-night stay at a cozy place for 2 on the Salmon River on Mount Hood. Really good access to skiing and hiking. Or you can head west towards the coast for a 2-night stay for 2 or more people at a lovely house along Farmer Creek near Beaver, Oregon, which is almost 5 acres of restored natural woodland and marsh with a stream running through it. My family and I had a really magical time there, just wandering through all the trails on the property and seeing the old growth trees. And it's also just a quick drive to the ocean for a day trip. So those are all available. You can check them out on the bidding site. We also have some really great food and wine offered here, including a gift certificate to Mixteca Oaxacan restaurant. If you haven't been there, you've got to try it. I didn't have dinner yet, and it's making me hungry just thinking about their food. So here's what you could do. You could get that gift certificate. Then you could also do some takeout from Mixteca and drink it at home with some of the highly coveted Chaos red wine that's made by friend of Oregon PSR, Stephen Gilbert. We have served Steve's wine in the past when we had in-person dinners where it was such a huge hit. People were sneaking it from the other tables over to their table and switching with other bottles. So this is your chance to enjoy some of Steve's great wine at home. I have the case of it sitting in my basement for the past month, and it's taken a lot of willpower to restrain myself from opening a bottle of that wine. So the good news is we're auctioning off 3 sets of 4 bottles each to the top 3 bidders. So go ahead and bid on some of that wine. You could also learn a new skill. We've got a package of guitar lessons from the wonderful guitar player and composer Ben Graves, who you heard earlier this evening. And we also have private kayaking lessons with Mary Lee Day. So whether you want to become a kayaktivist like Mary Lee or just get out on the water, I've seen Mary Lee in action. I've seen her teaching. She's a great teacher. She'll get you set up to feel safe and comfortable and having a fun time out on the water. We also have some really amazing artwork, including a couple of lino cut prints by Yukio Kawano, and also a newly framed original poster of the Ribbon Project, which is a famous peace and justice initiative to encircle the Pentagon with art depicting what you'd most want to save from nuclear war. It's a really incredible story. You can read more about it on the bidding site. And really, this is truly a piece of peace movement history to hang on your wall. So this is a way you can give the gift of peace this season. And finally, we have 2 portrait photography sessions with Artistic Bliss, one for newborns and one for the rest of us. So that could make a great holiday gift for family this holiday season. So once again, you can use the link in the chat or from our website and head over to the bidding site to place your bids for one or more of these auction items and know that you're supporting an organization you care about with every bid you make. We are going to keep bidding open until noon on Monday, so it gives you a little bit more time to think about your bids and get them in. And hey, if you'd rather just give money, we'll take that too. We've got up in the chat how you can support us financially. And I just want to thank everyone here for being part of this generous community, for your gifts of time, your gifts of money, for bidding on these auction items, for supporting Oregon PSR, for our partner organizations, for our members. I'm really grateful for all that you do to support Oregon PSR and to support the movement building that we desperately need to do. So I'm going to kick it back over to Candace and Mimi to close us out.
Thank you, Kelly, for giving us the preview of the silent auction item. I'm secretly hoping for some of the wine myself, so now I'm even more excited after hearing about it. I just want to let you guys know that the video we saw tonight is going to be posted on our Oregon PSR YouTube, our website, Facebook, and we invite you to share it with your friends and your family. And just thank you for being with us. And Candace, I'll send it over to you, and then we'll let Ben play some more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mimi, and thank you all. I raise my hands to everyone. Thank you so much for being here this evening and sharing in this celebration with us, for your generous support and for sticking together through these times. And we just really appreciate you all. So we wish you a good evening and a good night, and best wishes, good health. Thank you.
you.